join some more representatives from KIX, specifically from the syndicates or teacher unions from different countries. Many of them are representatives of their countries in here at KIX. So we're really happy to start this meeting. It is a workshop where we are seeking for the articulation between different initiatives which are happening, occurring in this KIX program. So right now, I'd like to thank the ones who are with us. We're going to greet and introduce all of us. We have representatives from many countries, so we'd like this to be a conversation. We have colleagues from IDRC, Margarita and Florencio, Margarita Lopez and Florencio Ceballos. They're officials of the RDIC, and they're involved in this initiative. And we're really happy to have this conversation space, as we said before, about education policies, acknowledging the relevance of having the vision of the unions, different magistrate schools and teachers unions. So KIX wants to create an ecosystem from different worlds. We have representatives from education ministries, the academic world of universities, researchers, representatives from the civil society, and you from unions. And we're having a conversation with you all. We want to start a road of cooperation, collaboration. So later, creating some instances of debate and cooperation with other instances that I have already mentioned. It is really important to consider the voice of teachers in this educational policies debate, and we're convinced of that here at SUMMA. So I want to thank for the presence of each of you, and I will open the floor so you can introduce yourselves and you can introduce your institutions as well. The main goal, as you may know from the agenda that you received, it is about the presentation of some innovations in the professional teachers development, which is being addressed in the case of Honduras in the professional project called Scala, which is going to be presented by the team which is implementing it. Of course, we want to exchange your visions and learnings from the experience of teacher units. So we'd like to know your vision and the role in which your institutions are having in the developing or development of your country. So finally, we're going to talk about some possibilities for the future, possibilities for cooperation amongst the magistrates of the region and also in this whole ecosystem of KIX. So this is the agenda for today. It is a meeting which is going to last 1 hour. We want it to be really brief and precise. And of course, we want to listen to your visions. We're going to have we're going to open the floor so you can introduce yourselves. Ivana Zacarias, researcher from KIX. She's going to present briefly what KIX is, what the initiative is. And afterwards, we're going to open the floor for the team, Honduras team. And they're going to show the tool which is going to feed this model. There later we will have some 25 more minutes to get to know your visions and to have an exchange of ideas. And finally, we're going to finish with some closing words. And Florencio Ceballos is going to give some observations. So now I'd like to give the floor to Ivana Zagarias. She's going to do the introduction of KIX. So, and before Ivana, I just wanted to, please, we have some time so you can introduce yourselves. We have Robbie. We also have Oveniel, Mervin, then Daniel is also here.
Buenos días, mucho gusto.
Good morning, everyone. I am Daniel Esponda. I am the Secretary for Training of the Professional Schools from Honduras. Thank you very much for the invitation. I hope it is quite fruitful, and we're here to help as much as possible.
Muchísimas gracias, Daniel. Bienvenido. Robbie, Mervin, por favor,
Robbie, Mervin, please. The floor is yours. You can speak English. We have an interpretation system, so please, you can express or you can speak English, no problem.
Thank you very much. Pleasant good morning to everybody. My name is Oswald Robinson, and I'm the president of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Teachers Union. And I want to thank you for the invitation, and I look forward that I'll be able to contribute to the conversation that we're having today.
Good morning. I am Mervin Alexander from the Dominican Association of Teachers. I am delighted to be at this discussion today.
Excelente, muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Oveniel, parece que está, sí, por ahí.
Buenos días, Raúl. Un saludo.
Good morning, Raúl. I'd like to greet every one of you. Thank you for the invitation from Oveniel Flores. I'm Oveniel Flores from Honduras. So we hope to have a space which is going to be fruitful to face all of the challenges that we are having in the educational system. Thank you. Thank you very much, Oveniel. I see that
Frankson Marshall
is joining. Can you hear us?
Good morning, I am here.
Estamos haciendo una ronda de introducción simplemente
We are
para
introducing ourselves. So you are with many of your colleagues from the region, and they have already introduced themselves. Mervin from Dominica, Oswald from St. Vincent, Daniel Sponda, and Oveniel from Honduras have already introduced. So would you please introduce yourselves so you can join this meeting, please?
Hello, are you hearing me?
Perfectamente, sí.
Okay, good. I'm sorry, but I do not speak Spanish, so I didn't understand that last your comments. Yes.
Sorry. Yeah, because you're coming, and there is a button called interpretation where you can you will listen all the conversation in English. We have interpretation, simultaneous interpretation at this moment, and it's completely fine if you speak in English, and your colleagues who speak Spanish will listen. The translation. So that's perfect.
Okay, good. Well, thanks.
So if you can introduce yourself, your other colleagues already have done that.
Okay, good. So good morning to everyone. My name is Vinson Marshall. I am a teacher from Grenada. I teach grade 6. I have been involved in the Grenadian teachers for quite a number of years, and I am presently the second vice president of that institution. Good morning to everyone. Thank you.
Muchas gracias,
Thank you very much. Frankson, I hope you are listening to the interpretation. Are you listening to the interpreter?
Espero que todos estén escuchando
So I
bien.
hope you're all listening to the interpretation. Can you listen to the interpreter? Can you please confirm that you're listening to the interpretation? Can you please give us a thumb up? Yes, you introduce yourself, so yes, that's great. You are listening to this in English. That's good. So please, if you want to introduce yourselves from IDRC, Margarita Florencio. Good morning. I am Margarita Lopez, Program Officer in IDRC in Ottawa, in charge of many of these projects which we're developing with KIX. I'm really excited to be with you all in this important meeting, which I believe is going to be like the first one of covering these topics in our program. Thank you very much, Margarita.
Hola, hello everyone. My name is Florencio Ceballos. Mi nombre es Florencio Ceballos. I'm also a program officer with KIX and working very closely with SUMMA and OECS on the Latin American Hub. I'm extremely happy to actually be here and for this meeting to be happening now. Unions are a key partner of KIX, and we are eager to have them more and more incorporated into the discussions that we are trying to carry out on research, evidence, and change and innovation in education. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Florencio.
Thank you, Florencio. I'd like to open the floor for our colleague from OCS, Sonia Gonzalez, please. She's also with us.
Thanks, Raul. Good morning to everyone. I am very pleased to see representatives across the hub, and even more pleased to see representatives for the Eastern Caribbean part of the hub. I work closely with Raul at the team, with the team from SUMMA, and I act as a liaison between SUMMA as well as our education management unit here at the commission, led by Sister Simon. I know more people probably know Sister Simon and Reefa Gordon because they are the more technical leads, but I also head knowledge management at the commission, and I really wanted to get involved in this project because it really brings to life really trying to apply knowledge and innovation, that exchange across the hub, especially in the area of education. So welcome. I hope you have a good session, and thank you for being here. Raul?
Muchas gracias, Sonia.
Thank you very much, Sonia. Javier Gonzalez is our director from SUMMA. He's also here with us. Javier, the floor is yours.
Buenos días a todos.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning to you all. I understand everyone is using their translation. So maybe, I think the majority is in English, so maybe I'm going to speak in English. So just, well, I'm the director of SUMMA, and as the lead institution of the KIX hub for Latin America, we're extremely proud and happy and humbled by the possibility of working with the KIX community, and especially the teachers union, in the region. And I would say for two main reasons very quickly. One, because of the importance of cooperation. I think if there's a lesson to be learned after the COVID pandemic, is the fact that we need to cooperate in order to really face properly this huge challenge. And we've seen how the health sector has been able to really make a huge advancement in terms of the cooperation and planning and innovation, and being able to create a vaccine in just a record time. And sometimes with the same effort, sometimes we have seen less results in the area of education. And maybe that has to do with the fact that we haven't learned as much as the sector of health sector to work cooperatively. And second, so I think it's a space like this that allows us to know each other, to discuss the really key issues of our countries are key to work forward together. The second and very important issue of why we think this is a very important space has to do with the issue of power. We know that unions are usually, they have to face different negotiations in society to try to promote the vision of teachers. And therefore, we believe that evidence is not a neutral area in the sense that evidence and knowledge is power. And therefore, it allows us to reach better policies for the benefit of the population, the children, the youth. And we think that the mobilization of evidence has the capability, the capacity to empower also teacher unions in their capacity to further the interests of the education communities. So we do not see this in a very naive way, in the sense of saying, well, we just want to have more evidence to have more papers or more articles in a journal. We believe that evidence and evidence in the right hands are important to empower critical actors such as teacher unions to move forward the reforms and the institutional changes that are needed in society. So we're very most interested in hearing what you have to say. What are the needs in terms of evidence and in terms of knowledge creation, so that we can put the KIX regional hub at your service, at the service of the KIX community, to promote those reforms for the benefit of the student community. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Javier.
Thank you very much, Javier. Thank you for your words, inspiring words. We'd like to thank the whole SUMMA team, which is here with us. They have participated in the organization of this meeting, and we'd like to thank many for all of the other activities from KIX, Global KIX, Regional KIX as well, as we have called it. So thank you very much. Thank you for being here. So this is a small group, I said before, and it is important because we're getting to know each other for the very first time. And we hope this is a road which is going to last at least up until the year 2023. And we hope that as soon as possible, we can meet personally in a face-to-face meeting, so we can also get to know each other. And we can meet some other colleagues from the Ministry of Education, from research centers and organizations of the civil society as well. Ivana, please. The floor is yours. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for being here with us. I will be brief so I can open the floor for Dante. And I want to share what KIX is. Many of you have been in some events, activities organized by us, but this time it is something quite special because we're joining two instruments from the KIX community. KIX, it is an initiative from the World Alliance for Education, which works in these countries that we can see here in the map. In Latin America, we're working with 8 countries in the regional KIX, which are Guyana, Nicaragua, Honduras, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Grenada, San Vicente, and the Grenadines and Santa Lucia. But in order to implement KIX, which is this initiative of mobilization of knowledge and innovation, GP has different instruments. One is the global KIX, which wants to scale initiatives, interesting initiatives in different countries. And in SUMMA, we have, executes one of these projects in developing teacher professional development, and Dante Castillo will talk about, in the Chamber of Innovation, he will talk about that initiative. The other instrument that AME uses in order to execute KIX, it is regional KIX, where we have created this hub, regional hub, formed by different leaders from different ministries, universities, which is what Raul just shared. And you have also participated in many of these activities already. So with this, after this general context and background of what KIX is, I will open the floor to Dante Castillo so he can comment concrete things about, so we can think about. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ivana.
Voy a presentar
Give me just 1 second.
mi pantalla.
I will share my screen, so just 1 second.
Okay. ¿Se logra ver lo que estoy mostrando en pantalla?
So you can now see my screen, right?
Ok. Perfecto. Básicamente,
So basically,
la idea de esta
the
presentación
idea of this presentation it is basically to share with you all,
pocos minutos,
in a few minutes,
algunos los aprendizajes,
some of the learnings
trabajo que hemos venido
and the work that we have been developing from SUMMA
en la implementación, en la
and the implementation and the identification, implementation of strategies for teacher professional development mediated by technology. So there is an experience that we have developed, the KIX Global KIX project, which is funded by IDRC. And in this case, what we want and the work we're doing in Honduras, it is basically to identify, adapt, and to put into context some strategies for teacher professional development. So we have been working with the Teachers Professional Development Secretary of Education, identifying which is that set of good practices, what the evidence says at a global level, and what we should do and we should think of using in the case of Honduras. So in that context, as SUMMA, we did a vision of the experience that we had seen in Latin America, thinking in the identification of those good practices, and innovations which had been developed or been developed by different actors, universities, ministries, civil society, in order to offer training, teachers training of a good quality. And in that sense, what we did, it is basically to do a regional revision of the experiences. And also, what we identified were 11 cases, and what we want to show you now are some of the experiences of those regional panorama. So what is the starting point? It is a coalition where SUMMA is part of, which is the Coalition for the Professionalization of Teaching. And what has done, it is to work in order to achieve the fourth goal of the Agenda 2030, especially in the promotion and the strengthening of teaching of quality. And this is from the work and the use that can be done with technologies, IT, ICT. So what have we identified in this coalition work, which are the ones we are trying to put into action? In the case of Honduras, that's a set of needs for the teacher professional development. As it's been said, what we have seen it is that teachers have an important role, an important voice, not only as object of policy, but also as subject of public policy and policies and programs which are being developed in this field. And they have to do, of course, with the needs of professionalization of teachers, updating elements, especially in learning or permanent training services or learnings, continued learning, with the main goal to have and to improve those capabilities of the teachers for a practice, pedagogical practice, which is effective. So in this exercise, what have we seen? We have seen, some important data of this, which make us wonder, why is it important to think in these different elements? In Latin America, we have more than 7 million of teachers which are working in the classrooms. And they are teachers who are marked by the presence of women, though we know that many of them, of this population of teachers, in general terms, they come from, they have lower salaries. So therefore, there is a working conditions which is not so easy in comparison with some other professions, which are rather similar. 78% of them have a degree or accreditation as a teacher. Nonetheless, there are problems related to working conditions and also with a low value of their social value, valorization. So therefore, the question that we had and what we tried to boost in the case of the project that we're developing here in Honduras, it is how to contribute to improve those competences, teaching competences, the work that is being done, the work that is being done by teachers in the classroom through them continuous training processes, which can use the IT and communication. So what we did, we identified in 2020, last year, what showed it is basically that there are different dimensions which are working together. And of course, we need to think about them all. We need to include them all when offering this professional developing teacher professional development. The pandemic that has prevailed and has done, the use of technology is much more important right now. After the pandemic, there are many different policies, different programs around the world and in Latin America as well. Especially, they have tried to create more access to technology, the provision of devices and so on. On the other hand, it is being gathered. KIX programs, what they're doing is to move the evidence that is available, not only in the region, but also in the rest of the world. And it is important to put it at the service of the premise that we're trying to develop of adaptation and scaling of teacher professional development models. So the main goal of this work, in order to find these good practices in Latin America, the main goal was basically to identify and characterize models of teacher professional development which have been used, which were using these digital technologies and that were implemented here in Latin America. And we studied a set of cases. From this study and comparison of those cases, we could identify a set of characteristics which are important to think of at the time of developing and at the time of countries, in this case, implementing these programs. And they should also think in these logics of the scale development model. If we want to train teachers who are already at the service, we find situations where we should think on how to use these technologies and the opportunities and the advantages of it. So basically, what we did was to identify some experiences that came from and that had been developed from the year 20 2000. And the main focus were teachers, training, primary school training for teachers, and where some formative models were being implemented that were using, importantly, these technologies, online technologies. In second place, they had to have some potential of scalability and sustainability through time, trying to, of course, identify through documentation of these initiatives different aspects related to the quality, the type of organization, the efficiency, and so on. The cases that we studied 3 cases in Argentina, 2 cases in Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Mexico, and Peru, which seem to be a set. They are a set of 11 cases, and what they show it is how these different countries are, from their different systems of training, professional training, they are facing this challenge of the use of technologies for training. So here we'll mention some elements, general elements, that we could see in this set of cases. In general terms, there is a diversity of modalities of delivery from programs which are 100% online, similar to these classical MOOCs, where the teacher and teachers can take those courses individually in their own times and without any follow-up or without any accompaniment of a tutor or on an asynchronic program or synchronic program. So we have programs which are mainly characterized by using that modality in 100% online. There are some programs which are multimodal programs which combine presential and non-presential and online or blended modality with some other resources. And finally, we have programs which are totally blended, which combine activities on the site with some online activities. Something else that we realized that it is there in the revision of the cases, it is that there's a lot of offer done by courses. A course of training in a certain area, specific area. It could be given by an university, an organization from the civil society offering this specific course. But basically, they want, or they seek, many of these experiences, what they want is to train in a curricular specific area. Together with that, there is a series of strategies, which what they do is to develop the reforms in training in Chile, in Colombia, in Costa Rica, where the countries, what they do, it is to offer multiple opportunities for training in different courses, in different curriculum lines, different contents. And on the other hand, there is a blending of activities which are developed at a presential level, platforms, courses which are offered in platforms online, and they're a bit more complex, and they offer a wide variety of alternatives. Some of them are regional, national, and they want to get to different countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. And some of them had a content which was applied belonging to a country, in countries where there are some systems which are more decentralized education. So which were the common factors which make us think, and this is what we're thinking of in the case of initiatives that we're developing in Honduras. There are 6 common elements, and these are 6 key elements that we need to include when implementing programs which are using technology. The first one, it is a platform. And a platform in terms of the possibilities to access, how to access to these online platforms. It has to do, of course, with the devices from where teachers are going to get connected, and which are the possibilities of the reach, which allowed with this system, allowed the LMS, which allowed to offer these courses online. So there's a key element, which is a platform. Second element is the pedagogical design of these courses, teaching design and content. And that's related with the resources which are available at a digital level. Also, the debate, and what is really important to mention, in the cases, it is the existence of accompaniment and mentorship, especially in these courses, which are totally online. It is important to develop some tutorship for the teachers having the course. Number 5 and 6, it is assessment, which is being done, which allows teachers to access to a certain type of certification or credential. These are some other key aspects that we're going to find. We're going to find diversity in different experiences to the type of certification. In many countries, the certification of the online courses, it is not leading to educational background. It is basically part of the interest of the teacher, and it is part of the demand of teachers, which are, teachers want this to have an incidence in the professional career. A second element that has to do with the number of tutors and students ratio per tutor. That's an important element. Thirdly, we have the allocated time. The offer varies from small courses of a week up until some diploma courses, where a big number of hours is devoted to that 70, 80 hours of work. A fourth element, which is really important, and some experiences have developed it only, has to do with the community creation of practices, and the assessment of them. It is quite positive. It's positively seen by the initiatives that are or that have used it. And finally, I will mention these classroom activities, which many are including into the process. And all of the elements mentioned in the theory has to be related with the practices done in the classroom. Dante, just to open the conversation. The platform content, we can send it to our colleagues. So it would be great to wrap up this presentation, maybe with that last slide. Thank you, Ro. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Just to open the conversation, the question that we have is, what should TPD programs need to develop from the viewpoint of teachers? From the question how to blend three things: needs, local needs of training, on the one hand. Second place, the inclusion of evidence or effective practices. And thirdly, to develop that from the use of technologies, TPD. So basically that role. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dante. Ivana is going to share some questions to open this conversation. We are really happy to start sharing with you all some of the advancements of the project itself, KIX, Global KIX, which is part of this ecosystem approach where we are at. So therefore, we invite you to join this conversation. Ivana is sharing. We'd like to know your vision, of course. So we'd like to use this last 20 minutes in that. We'd like to know what's happening in Dominica, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, Honduras, of course, where we're also implementing this project.
Ivana, no te escuchamos. Ahí sí.
Bueno, de vuelta aquí.
Well then, so as Raul just said, he commented what we'd like to know, which is basically, what are the challenges that you identify in teacher professional development in your organizations? Another question that we'd like to address, it is, what is the role of the unions in teacher professional development. And these two questions are questions which are kind of a guideline. We'd like to open a conversation here. What we really want is to listen to you. Which are your views? Which are your concerns that you're having now in this context, at this very moment, in terms of teacher professional development? What expectations you have? What elements should be changed? Excellent then. So with these questions, we're going to open the conversation so you can share your vision. And it's important to know what the role of the organization have in your countries and what we understand as cooperation between countries as well. So we really care about, I mean, we'd like to know what we all are doing. Oswald, Reniel, would you like to share some ideas or comments? Good morning, everyone. Once again, I believe that one of the main challenges in terms of development, professional development, teachers develop professional development, it has to do with the selection of the candidates. Not only in these pandemic times, we have some structural elements to consider, but in Honduras, we don't have the Bachelor of Arts, and the school, normal regular school also disappears. And this in this pandemic context, I mean, everything's much harder and difficult. In the teacher unions, they reformed their statutes, their organic laws. They were organized in the first decade of the 2020. And they created this training secretary. And from there, because there was little permanent, constant training that the state is providing to teachers, so therefore we had these training schools in pedagogical elements and didactic. So that has allowed us to, in some areas, such as in, especially for the first cycles, primary schools, they have some accompaniment. And from the organization, we invest resources, we fund, and we also provide human resources to train our co-workers in all over the country. But our courses, our training courses, do not lead to accreditation. So the knowledge that our teachers have, I mean, are basically to do their job better, but the state acknowledging that training, I mean, that is not still present there. Anyone else willing to complement what Daniel has said? Thank you, Daniel. Yes, good morning. Can you hear me well? Absolutely, yes. Go ahead. So, first of all, I'd like to thank for this invitation. I'd like to say that before the pandemic in Honduras, we were in a crisis in the educational system, and there was an urgency of change, structural changes, cross-sectional changes, and also we needed innovation in the system, educational system. Well, the pandemic accelerated. I mean, this is not something that we can choose. Now we're forced to have or implement those changes in order to guarantee and to be able to have this learning process open. In Honduras, we're implementing many different modalities according to different factors such as the pandemic, situations such as socioeconomic situations as well, geographic elements, and also the situation of educational centers in the country. Teachers in the country had to adapt themselves, and they had to apply new strategies, new modalities and methodologies according to that reality, because it is important. Training is important. Teacher professional development is so important because in Honduras, it has been a topic which is not been relevant from the year 2006, 2009. Just then, a systematic updating process started in order to make teachers more professional. And we have 11 years of existence, and it is not really important. And therefore now, it requires a higher value. with the challenges that we're facing in the educational system, teachers and organizations, unions, teacher unions, which usually in different systems, I mean, they have seen us as an obstacle when it is totally, I mean, it is all the contrary. We are part of the solution to problems. We are main actors to contribute in order to boost processes which are going to lead to guarantee children and youngsters educational quality. Your teachers from one day to another where schools were closed, we had to adapt ourselves to implement platforms, digital platforms in order to reach our children and youngsters in many different places, different parts of the country. But we also need to mention that in some educational centers, schools where communities are highly poor, they live in poverty, extreme poverty. I mean, teachers had to go back to past activities. They had to meet with small groups under a tree, at the shade of a tree, in an open space. And that happened from the year 2020. So here in Honduras, we have had to implement this distance modality through virtual means or with some written text. The government gave some limited resources, some textbooks, but teachers are the ones who have had to, I mean, with creativity, create some textbooks, guidelines, and questionnaires to adapt them to the reality. Teachers, when we didn't have much experience in this, from one day to another, we were on radio, on TV, in order to get to our children and youngsters. So here, the things that teachers, yes, we need much more support in order to professionalize ourselves. We need to get updated. We need to have continuous learning. And we need to improve our capabilities in order to better use TICs. But we also need a lot of training. And we have that big, huge challenge in terms of how to develop educational processes, which are right now the ones which are avoiding exclusion and they're avoiding inequality. And teachers and children are working in this semi-presential modality. We're aware of that. We're developing some online courses and some a blending of virtual and on-site activities. So there we need to prepare and support the professionalization and updating and improvement of teachers in their capabilities in order to develop all of those modalities. Organizations and unions, I mean, from the unions, we're contributing and we're helping for our children and youngsters are guaranteed their right, human right, to education, and we're supporting as much as possible in all the process of personalization, updating, and training of teachers. Thank you very much. Thank you, Oveniel. You cover so many different topics, huh? So teachers have made a huge effort to adapt into this situation. And it's really interesting what you just mentioned. Not only in order to adapt to digital platforms, but also to go back to the orthodox, I mean, meeting students under the shade of a tree, for instance. Anyone from the Caribbean? Joanna? Just one second. Ivana, I want to comment that, yes, we'd like to ask a little bit of flexibility. If you can stay with us a few more minutes, I mean, we'd like you all to comment about your experiences. I know that our IDRC colleague has to leave, but we could maybe continue for a few minutes. Lorenzo, would you like to take the floor before you leave? But I would like to ask you to be more flexible. We're learning together, and we hope that this conversation can be productive. Not only, we don't want this just to be a slogan, but we'd like you to express yourselves. So that's why we're asking for some flexibility in terms of time. Lorenzo, thank you, Raul. Yes, unfortunately, Margarita and I, we need to leave. We have another meeting. And I wanted to say that for us, I mean, we believe that it is good news and a good start, our starting point to have these specific debates and important conversation with the unions of teachers. KIX has as a main goal to include some other actors in order to create not only the Ministry of Education, and in general terms, the unions of teachers are sometimes set aside in those debates. They're not included, and that shouldn't be like that. So therefore, we think this is a good starting point. We'd like to strengthen and deepen that relationship. Unions are a key actor in all of innovation programs, and they're represented in KIX. One of the representatives of the board of KIX, it is Deputy Director of International Education. And if you, I mean, in the next days, we will send you a note telling you that there was a meeting with representatives of teachers, unions of the Caribbean and Latin America, because that is something they also want to know about. They want to know if teachers are being included in these dialogue tables, and this is a very first starting point. So thank you very much. We're really sorry to leave, but we have another meeting. So thank you very much. Thank you, Florencio.
Oswald, Mervin, Frankson, encantado de escucharlos.
Thank you.
So guys,
Thank you very much. A very interesting conversation we're having here. In terms of the challenges, St. Vincent and Grenadine Teachers Union, we need to underscore that the issue of internet reliability is a sore point. And this has impacted upon us even more now that most of our teachers have to engage the students virtually. So in the middle of a lesson, you may find that the internet goes or it slows down and it impacts on the quality of teaching and learning. The issue of compatible devices for 90% of primary school children in St. Vincent and Grenadines is something that the government would have promised since last year, June. They indicated to us that they are procuring some 30,000 tablets. And as a teachers union, we would have been very much concerned that the foundation of the education system, which is the primary school, which also involves early childhood, we thought that that sector of the education system would have been provided with compatible devices. So you see the stress that is related now to our teachers trying to reach these students. This is critical. It is impacting on the health of our teachers. For those teachers who are engaged in online teaching, there are physical effects in terms of staring at a screen for a long period of time. The issue is here, there is no clear policy on online teaching. So you'll find in the middle of a night when a teacher is taking his or her rest, comfort of a home, you may find some parents calling in. So there, we need to look at the whole issue of time management from a policy standpoint, the whole issue of internet connectivity. For those teachers who have to be online for a long period of time, it means that they are paying much more money in terms of electricity bills, okay, because they are operating more on time. The issue here is that as a union, we have had a very long relationship with the Ministry of Education and the Canadian Teachers Federation. We have done quite a lot of professional development workshop over the years, over 60 years. That is to tell you that we are like experts in the terms of professional development. But these programs were mainly face-to-face. So when COVID came upon us last year, we could not have had that program because we were not prepared to introduce the digital platform. This year, we are going to make a concerted effort to ensure that we embrace the technology and to deliver to our teachers. So there'll be a heavy emphasis on ICT. How do you manage a virtual classroom? We have to pay attention also to the pedagogical skills in delivering online. A lot of teachers are still not sure how long an online lesson should be for a particular age group. So that's a need that is expressed. That's something we need. For example, the early childhood students, you would expect they would have a shorter time span than those in the middle of the primary school and those who are at secondary. We need to be informed in terms of the psychology. We need that knowledge so that we could pass it on to a teacher so that they would take that into consideration in terms of their time management, how long they should be on time, online with their students, and also how do you make those lessons interactive so that the students could be fully engaged. Because sometimes you may find teachers go online and if they are not equipped with the right set of tools and activities, the students may just get torn off. So we want that psychology to be in place. The whole issue of a code of conduct also for online teaching, that's a need. We need assistance in developing that because it is important. Most of our teachers, they're operating at their homes. They do not have a specified designated space for teaching. And you may understand also their teachers who are also parents. So we need those kind of skills. How do you take charge of your domestic chores and at the same time you have to be teaching a class online? Those are things that we need assistance in. I did mention earlier that we are going to launch our digital platform, but we would need some facilitators also to help us to do the training online for our teachers, because that's a very scarce resource here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Oswald.
Thank you, Oswald. Thank you for sharing your experience. I don't know if Mervin would like to say something, or Frankson.
Good day again, everyone. The experience for Dominic is similar to that of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But for us right now, since we are more or less face-to-face teaching, the challenges are not as great as St. Vincent and the Grenadines. However, prior to COVID-19, things were basically what is happening, especially for our teachers, is in terms of devices and internet connectivity as well too, because after Hurricane Maria, the island is not yet fully, all parts of the island are not yet fully with internet connectivity. So we still have a problem with that, whatever and so on. So when the island was in lockdown, many students could not access lessons because of that. And so that really posed a problem for our teachers. And really, they were very concerned, and I mean, it was a real mess for us and that sort of thing. However, with the situation now, most teachers are trying now to use a blended approach in their teaching, face-to-face as well as using the internet. And what our union has done in collaboration with the Ministry of Education and the Canadian Teachers Federation is provide training for our teachers in ICT. And we really feel that this is very important and necessary. And more we are working in these areas in training our teachers to use ICT in teaching. Of course, the challenge is still that many teachers do not have the devices, and also the children do not have devices either, some of them in the various areas, and that is continuing to pose a problem. So we are trying our very best to see how we can really solve the situation and that sort of thing. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much, Mervyn. Frankson?
Good afternoon. Yes, I'm kind of in school and responding at the same time. So could you kindly remind me what was the initial question?
Había dos preguntas.
Well, here there were two questions.
Sorry, go ahead.
We're talking about which is the role of the members. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
The teachers'
So that's the role of the union?
Sí, en el desarrollo.
That's right. Yeah, in the professional development of teachers, what challenges the unions are facing?
Okay, yes. When it comes to professional development, a long-standing tradition of supporting the efforts of professionals in the education sector. A lot of the benefits that teachers have been. The unions often take it upon themselves to execute activities for their members. They would call the teachers out and have activities. Another important aspect is that unions act as a barrier. One of the issues we have in the Caribbean is that when governments change, often new governments would have their policies and their initiatives. And sometimes or policy directions that any government has and whatever demands are being made of teachers are fair. So whatever training must occur within a certain time, that it must not go beyond the teachers' working hours, and that whatever amenities that we're taking care of for that development, they are provided to the teachers. In addition to that, it is the duty of the union to encourage the members to be the best professionals that they can be. And this is something that the unions do try very well with in the Caribbean. And teachers are often very much encouraged to get your degree, to upgrade yourselves, and so forth. Now, another aspect in which the union facilitates that is that the unions have been very instrumental in instituting pay and grade scales in the Caribbean. So for instance, in the Grenada Public Service, it is only the teachers which have a pay and grade scale that is based on qualifications. In the normal public service, whether you have a master's or a bachelor's, it depends on the position you are put in. But excuse me one moment, please. Kindly forgive me.
Not a problem. I think when Frankson. Oh,
hi, yes.
You're back.
Oh, sorry, yeah. So teachers in Grenada have a pay and grade scale where based on your qualifications, you get paid. And it was the union that was instrumental in bringing that to the fore, because professional development is one thing, but there must be some merit, some motivation for a teacher to pursue that avenue. In addition to that, the teachers in the Caribbean do not make attractive sums when it comes to remuneration. But generally for a teacher to decide to pursue his or her degree, then they would have to spend that money or take a loan. So it is important that they know that once that qualification is achieved, that there is some remuneration thereafter that can help them pay back for that loan or bring them in some kind of better way in life financially. And I think these are just a few ways in which the unions, not only in Grenada, but generally ensure that professional development is done and that there is some benefit to it and it's not just an exercise in fertility. Thank you.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias, Frankson, y muchísimas gracias a todos. La verdad que
we'd like to thank everyone. I mean, many interesting things have arisen in terms of the challenges that you have and the role that you have as well. You talked about the need of adapting different offers, infrastructure, the new context in which we're at. I mean, this pandemic, but also there are some old needs, such as Ovenir just mentioned, in Honduras, or in the case in Dominican, with the Maria hurricane. So therefore, there is a need of paying attention to the conditions in which we are teaching. We need infrastructure on how teachers can feel better and they can be accompanied so they can be in better conditions, working conditions, and health conditions in order to do a better job when teaching. And the last point, which was also mentioned, have some incentives in order to get trained, to choose to be trained, because in the end, otherwise, it is going to have a cost for the teacher. And it's sometimes way too high for teachers. So the truth being said, we could keep on talking for long hours. There are so many different needs, and the role of the unions, it is fundamental, essential. I am from Argentina. And you know that here the unions and the training offered for unions, from unions, it is wide. So therefore, I'm highly familiarized with the work which is being done. And well, this gives an agenda for the future related to KIX, related to the type of training that we can propose for the future in relation to the type of research that are required for the future. And well, of course, we can learn from other experiences in different parts of the world, which are in this case answering this challenge. So once again, thank you very much. I'm going to open the floor for Raul so he can do or give some closing words. Briefly, thank you very much. If you can turn on your cameras, please, so we can take a picture. Ivana did an excellent closure. I just want to thank for your flexibility in terms of time, because you stayed longer than we had expected. For us, it is a real honor to be with you all. We hope to continue with these conversations, collective conversations, individual conversations as well, with different education ministries and with some other members of the KIX as well. I just want to reinforce a couple of things. The first one, we want to be KIX. We want to be a contribution. We want to improve the agenda in terms of conditions, working conditions of teachers. So therefore, we're convinced that talking about structures, it is important to contribute to the value and revalue, in some cases, social and economic values of the teacher activity. We're convinced about that institutionally, and we're going to push for that. We're going to push that agenda. Second of all, we need to boost the contribution of each of you and your organizations to the debate of educational policies. We want to be a platform allowing to amplify that. And finally, we want to invite you to create more spaces, such as this one, where we can have a dialogue. We need to go deeper, of course, into problems, opportunities, strengths of our educational systems. And therefore, we want to invite you to what's next, which is related to the project that Dante just presented. And a series of activities which are part of the hub with you as representatives of your country. So I'm so happy and thankful. And we hope to have another possibility, such as this one, in the short term to meet you all. Thank you very much. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye, everyone.